In terms of the relationship between alcohol and breast cancer and the heightened risk, I mean, subscribing to the adage, nothing to excess, just enough. Is there a level of alcohol that is okay? Like, is it I don't get the sense that you're purporting the temperance movement in France, but I'm wondering, that level of 2.6 you were saying across the whole, where would you like to see it in France? Like, what is the goal of, in terms of reducing alcohol intake?
WHO says for alcohol, less is better.
Yeah.
And the UK has just revised its recommendation and shown that there was a risk even at a very low level of consumption. So those are the facts. This is what the evidence tells us. Less is better. And 2.6 drinks per adult per day, if you think it's the whole population, it's 15 or over. If you think about one-third of the men do not drink regularly and 2/3 of the women do not drink regularly, it means that the other half is drinking 5 drinks per day. And this is far too much. So that's it.
Do you see some room for some new technology? Because we have technology that tells us how much we walk, how much we exercise, how much. Do you think an app that kind of gives you a little bit of a red flag when you've consumed too much alcohol or
less ethanol? measure the amount. I have a prototype of glasses in my office that I painted myself, saying, if this is wine, this is 10 grams. If this is beer, this is 10 grams. This is whiskey, this is 10 grams. Just measure the amount. And the British recommendations that have just come out are very good. And they say, do not drink every day. And do not drink more than 11 units, 10-gram units per week. And less is better.
Let's see.
I don't advocate temperance. I just want the people to know the risks. And I think we have a need for personalized prevention. It's not logical to see a woman come for a mammography and leave with a cigarette in her hand. She gets it wrong in terms of cancer prevention. Tobacco kills more than half of its regular users. So the general public is completely confused. They tell you, I exercise so I can smoke. And this is just completely wrong. So you have to know the order of magnitudes of the risk. You have to know the priorities. It's important. And for alcohol, less is better.
Oh, go ahead.
I think this raises an important problem or challenging in the whole, if it's tobacco or alcohol or physical activity or obesity, which is the ethical principle of autonomy of the persons regarding preventive measures. However, these behavioral also questions about are the people sufficiently informed to do informed choices and in their autonomy to do informed choices. And I think people are not, and that the information that there should be an effort on informing people on these preventive measures. And when I'm having the lessons to the students, I always ask them if they are familiar with the different guidelines, and they aren't. They say, well, alcohol is not good, but they don't know what are the recommendations about, well, 2 glasses or 3 glasses for the woman, or 4, well, they don't know, so they have no repairs, and I think it is important.
So it would benefit from an education campaign, it sounds like.
Well, the media are propagating all kind of false ideas. The lobbies are just advocating all kind of things. It's just, it says, what it says on the bottle, it says, consommer avec modération. use moderately. What is the definition of moderately? The definition of moderately for me is the amount I drink. I'm moderate. Whoever drinks more than I do is not doing right. This is ridiculous. We need, quantitative information.
Well, I do think your data is a good beginning because, I lived in the Netherlands when the tobacco bans were coming into effect, and there were resistances and embracing and a lot of back and forth. But ultimately, the policy is you don't smoke indoors in most of Europe. I think there's some holdouts in Eastern Europe, and there's some loopholes. But I mean, do you see that you maybe can move mountains with, you've got some hard data to start this conversation, and lobby or not lobby, you still can't smoke inside buildings within Europe, and that took a while to be embraced by the policymakers and the public, and maybe this is just the next wave. This is kind of the next hill.
But tobacco consumption in France is fairly stable. It's about a little bit more than 30% of smokers. And this is a really very bad result. And that hasn't changed since 2004. Between 2002 and 2004, there was a big price increase and the prevalence of smoking went down, but now it's probably stable, so the situation is just bad.
So even more, do even more, yeah. I'm sorry, so Dr. Fervers also does environmental research and research about the environment around us and toxicants that may be influencing our cancer occurrence. But we don't have much time, but I was wondering if you could maybe take a few minutes to touch on that research before I segue to the next guests.
Short on this research, yeah. Well, this is still be working on breast cancer, and some of the investigations we are interested in the program in our department and in collaboration with other research teams in the framework of the Cancerpol CLARA is to tackle the challenges of investigating environmental risk factors, which is when we're looking into the risk associated with tobacco, then we come into numbers for lung cancer, which is a tenfold risk. Lung cancer is in a threefold risk in some other cancers. When we're looking into environmental risk factors, we have very small increase in risk overall, for example, for air pollution, needing very large population to investigate environmental risk factors. This is one of the challenges we try to tackle by working on national cohort and collaborative programs. The next challenge, which is that also the risks are small. For some pollutants, we are generally not exposed to one pollutant, where we are exposed to several pollutants in the same time or one after the other over long periods in our life. So we knew very few things about how different pollutants may interact in long exposures simultaneously to chronic exposures simultaneously to different pollutants. So this is a second challenge we try to investigate both from the epidemiological aspects and in collaboration with those who are working on the more molecular biology by looking into the combined effects on environmental pollutants on breast cancer risk and also progression.
Well, thank you, because actually that sets up our next set of speakers very, very nicely.